I have not been drafting much Christian McCaffrey this year because I just see 4 wide receivers off the rip that to me project so much better than any of the other wide receivers. You're only getting them if you're getting a top 6 pick. And then the big issue for me structurally is I want every running back at the 2-3 turn, right? And I see a much larger gap between some of the running backs we'll talk about soon, like a Pollard, a Barkley, a Henry, and some of the wide receivers that go around there than I do McCaffrey versus Hill, Kupp, Jefferson, Chase. So I've been fading Christian McCaffrey, which is always terrifying to do when you're fading a guy who probably has the highest ceiling in all of fantasy. But I do think he always has the fragility of just being a running back, as the added fragility of being a fairly old running back, plus add in, the fact that he's had a pretty lengthy injury history. And then for the first time in McCaffrey's career ever, you have to factor in workload split concerns. In that stretch towards the end of the season, when Elijah Mitchell was healthy and Christian McCaffrey was healthy, they both averaged the exact same amount of carries. And Christian McCaffrey can be the RB1 in that type of workload split, but I don't think that he's going to gap himself from Kupp, Hill, Jefferson, Chase to the extent where I would want to go running back there, when I think I can get pretty similar median projection out of the wide receivers. I think it's better structurally, and you're probably taking less injury risk.
Billy, it's interesting because Christian McCaffrey is your RB1 overall in your running back rankings, but we haven't seen a running back this late in his career finish as the RB1 overall. I think you got to go back to like LaDainian Tomlinson. Certainly, if you go back the last 20 years, we've seen year 6 running backs hit the mark. Jamal Charles, Austin Eckler last year, but we haven't seen a 7th-year guy. Does that concern you at all with McCaffrey, or does his playing style kind of alleviate your concerns, where it's heavily based on his receiving work, less so than just needing to be a Derrick Henry-like grinder?
Yeah, I think his versatility will continue to prop up his fantasy scores, especially on this Niners offense that is going to continue to utilize him in that capacity. On top of it, we have the quarterback uncertainty in the Niners quarterback room, which
is there quarterback uncertainty?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think there's quarterback uncertainty.
Yeah, it has to be Purdy, but I think
which is great for McCaffrey.
Which is great for McCaffrey, but either way you look at it, this is why he's my RB1. Is either way you slice and dice it, whether it is Purdy, whether it is Darnold, whether it is Lance. All those quarterbacks are going to favor the outlet at the running back position when they get in trouble, when they get pressure, when they're inside of a jam. That's why I think we're going to have another big year for McCaffrey. There's going to be that outlet for those inexperienced quarterbacks, and or we're going to see the offense click like it did with Brock Purdy. To the same regard, that's why I'm higher on Debo again this year than I was last year. And so I think that we have a lot of different ways that this offense could look, but either way it is going to be favoring Christian McCaffrey, either way you slice and dice it, at least until his body does break down. They did utilize Elijah Mitchell a lot down the stretch, but if you actually go in and take a look closer at the snaps and the scores, it directly correlated with them in big leads. Like they were up 38-13 versus the Cardinals. They were up 41-23 versus the Seahawks, 37-20 versus the Commanders. And so when they had that lead, they gave Christian McCaffrey a little breather, I think, because they needed him fresh throughout the playoffs. So there is at least some sort of ease of concern in regards to Mitchell's touches during that stretch, because it can be correlated to those blowout games. Nonetheless, I don't think that Mitchell's going to be able to hold up. We've already seen him already in preseason with another injury. He just seems to be nicked all the time and consistently has that downside to him. I think he can be explosive. If he could stay healthy, then he could be a real threat, I think, to Christian McCaffrey. But I think either way you look at it, they're both going to be involved. I still think that the volume that McCaffrey is going to see is going to be, much better than a lot of other running backs in the league, because it's going to be both in the passing game and inside of the running game. He's probably one of 2 backs that are going to see 100 targets inside the NFL.
He's certainly my RB1 too. My only argument is him versus the wide receivers. If I'm taking a running back in the top 5, it's certainly Christian McCaffrey.
Hey, you like that video? Be sure to subscribe and activate those alerts so you get notified as soon as new videos drop. And be sure to check out playerprofiler.com. We have all the tools for you to dominate every type of fantasy league. We have a draft kit, Dynasty Deluxe, data analysis, DFS Dominator, and don't forget the player rankings to rule them all.